Okay, welcome everyone. Wonderful, wonderful. Aloha Akau. Welcome and good evening, everyone. My name is James Eustace, and I'm the president of the Waimea Community Association. Thank you for those joining us online tonight for our regular monthly Waimea Community Association town meeting. I encourage you to follow, like, and subscribe to the Waimea Community Association on our social accounts, and you may also find relevant information and resources on our website at waimeatown.org. We do strive to keep our accounts active and up to date. And once again, we're over on our YouTube page and hope we're connecting with other community members. And this is also shared over on our Facebook page. These meetings are also recorded for us to catch it and rewatch it at a later point as well. So thank you, everyone. And at this point, I would like to recognize our WCA board members, our Vice President, Mary Beth Lachek, our Treasurer, Jeremie Madrid, our Secretary, Nancy Carr-Smith, and our directors, Patty Cook, Michael Donnelly, Lonnie Olson-Chung, David Greenwell, and Riley Smith. And on behalf of the Waimea Community Association Board, we are grateful for the support shown by you, our community, to hold these virtual town meetings. Thank you all for your interest in joining us for our past meetings and for viewing and sharing these recordings. You're always welcome to rewatch and revisit these up on our Facebook page or up on our YouTube channel. The Waimea Community Association is a nonprofit organization that strives to promote open participation by all of the Waimea community, develop leadership, and support the smart growth of the region. If you'd like to support the work we have done and help continue our effort in connecting with our community, you're more than welcome to donate and join as a member. This information you can find up on our website at waimeatown.org, either to find a membership form or join digitally there with online contribution form. Otherwise, you can mail this membership form to our PO Box 2622, Kamwela. This information and more can be found on our website, as I mentioned. Your contributions and your membership allow us to reach out and connect with the community in this setting and support the work that WCA has done for the past 60 years. Mahalo nui. So this evening, we'll begin, of course, with a community health and safety update from our South Kuala police officers and an update from West Hawaii Community Health Center. We will then hear a few announcements and updates happening across the state, the county, and even here in Waimea. Following that, we will spotlight our nonprofit of the month. And lastly, we will dive into the environmental impact statement process for Puhakuloa training area. This evening, we are grateful to present you with a full and informative agenda. And we also have allocated some of our time this evening for our presenters tonight. And we appreciate community members sending in their questions at a time, but we will also try and capture some of your live questions. Please use the live chat to pose your questions, and we'll do our best to share them with our guests tonight. And thanks to our WCA board members, Nancy Carr-Smith and Patty Cook, for joining me this evening and presenting these questions. So at this time, I'd like to welcome back in Captain Evangelista and Community Policing Officers Justin Cabanting and Ansel Robinson to share with us a few updates. Mahalo, Captain and officers, welcome.
Good evening. Thanks, James. Good evening, everybody. Why don't we go to Officer Robinson first for his report?
All right, everyone. I'm Officer Robinson, for those of you who don't know. Today, I will be touching on crime trends. So for the South Kohala District, we had 5 reported assaults, 1 reported burglary, 3 criminal property damages, 0 robberies, 8 thefts, 1 unauthorized control of a propelled vehicle, which is basically auto theft, and then 2 unauthorized entry of a motor vehicle entering into a vehicle. And then we had 8 major incidents. Before I turn it over here to Justin Cabanting, I just wanted to highlight that your community police officers had gone out to clean up the beaches last month in celebration of Earth Day, thanks to the efforts of Cynthia Ho and her Keep Puako Clean. We were honored to be there and wanted to highlight her work. Anyway, I'm going to turn it over to Justin now.
All right, thanks. Good evening, everyone. Sorry, I got to sign in on my phone. My computer is giving me problems. Before I get into the the traffic report, I just wanted to make a couple announcements. Our newsletter is going to come out this week sometime. We do have Coffee with a Cop coming up on the 20th. And that's going to be at Queens Marketplace, the Starbucks, from 7 to 10. And I just wanted to make a notice that Police Week is actually May 15th to the 21st, and we're going to have a sign waving if anybody's interested to come show support for Police Week. But I'll get right into the traffic trends. So for the month of April, 821 citations were issued in the District of South Kohala. We did have 10 major traffic casualties. Our officers were able to issue 191 speeding citations, 132 moving citations, 36 seatbelt citations, and 261 regulatory citations. Sorry. Okay, and then 96 unsafe citations, 58 devices, and 4 DUI arrests were made. We did have 0 fatalities and 8 child restraints. As a district, we experienced 42 reckless driving calls that our patrolmen made checks on, and our officers did a total of 21 grant-funded projects for the month of April in South Kohala. And I'll hand it over to the captain.
Thanks, you guys. And just to add a little bit of context to those numbers that we put out there, as compared to April of 2021, all of our statistics were lower. So our reported assaults, our property damage cases, our auto thefts and car break-ins and such, they're all lower than compared to April 2021. And that's heartening. The community is doing a good job at avoiding becoming victims. So please continue to stay vigilant. And then to add on to the Police Week, our department has 2 ceremonies scheduled. May 16th at the Hilo Police Station. I believe it starts at 9 or 10 a.m. It'll be in the newsletter. And on May 18th at the Kona Police Station. So we have two opportunities for the public to join us in recognizing and honoring our brothers and sisters who paid the ultimate sacrifice. We want to thank everyone for standing with us during Police Week. We really appreciate your support. And that's it for us. Thanks.
Thanks, Captain. Thanks, officers. And we did have a question here about the assaults. If you wanted to briefly touch on that as much as you could, and kind of the incidents, if you could.
I'm not sure what we'd want to expand on. Assaults are obviously someone causing bodily injury to another person without their consent. The amount of assaults was down as compared to April of last year. What else would I want to expand on that? Can somebody help me with that?
Nancy, did you have any more thoughts on that?
No, I didn't realize that was down. So I was a little bit shocked there for a second and concerned. But if that number's already down, that's an improvement. Thank you, Captain.
Thanks, Nancy. And thanks, officers. Thanks, Captain, for jumping on that one. Yeah, we look forward to seeing you out there for Police Week. So thank you for bringing that up. And we appreciate all that you do for our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next up, for our community health update this evening, and to share some forthcoming changes, we're grateful to be joined by the CEO, the Chief Executive Officer of West Hawaii Community Health Center, Richard Taaffe. Mr. Taaffe has served as the Chief Executive Officer since 2005 and really has led the West Hawaii Community Health Center's efforts to expand access to care across West Hawaii. So mahalo, Richard. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, excuse me. Aloha, and thank you for the opportunity. And I look forward to being with you at other meetings too. And thank you, Captain, community police officers, for your help and assistance and everything you do. It's we'd like to work with all of you. So in terms of West Hawaii Community Health Center, I had 3 topics that you wanted me to address. One was COVID. And as you know, the numbers are way down. We're not dealing with Omicron or Delta any longer, but we do have a new one. And there is a slight uptick. The most recent report from the Department of Health said that there is, excuse me, over 4,200 statewide for the last 7 days. In Hawaii County, there's 565, and there was 9 hospitalizations. So while there's an uptick in the incidence of COVID, we're not seeing the hospitalizations. In terms of, that's for the county, excuse me. In terms of West Hawaii, we're not doing it. We're no longer doing any community outreach. Most of the around COVID, we have vaccines and we do testing at all of our sites. So as you may know, our sites, we have a location in Waikoloa, here in Kona, 2 here in Kona, and then down Kealakekua. So we're doing those testing and vaccines there. Most people have already received, should have received, or they can get home testing, and then vaccines are being done at the CVS and the KTA pharmacy. So there is definitely access, but if anyone who's listening is a patient and they want to get tested, they can come into West Hawaii Community Health Center, one of our locations. So that's kind of the quick update on COVID. We're watching it, and we'll be ready to pivot if we see a significant increase. So we're watching that. The other question, one of the other questions was, what are some other health issues that we're seeing? And because of COVID, we're definitely seeing a lot of behavioral health concerns. People coming in with anxiety, depression, those types of things. So that's definitely on the rise. Our behavioral health team is certainly addressing that. But in general, I think that's in the community. The other one, and I think this is the community policing officers probably can address this too, is the whole issue of fentanyl. We've been doing a lot of work around fentanyl and education, because we've had a number of deaths of fentanyl, and I know we've done some training with the police officers around Narcan and how to, if someone's is in an overdose, the use of Narcan to save lives. But it's the fentanyl, street fentanyl is out there, and it's definitely hit our state and has hit our county, and people need to be aware and try to educate themselves around fentanyl. It's deadly. Bottom line, it's deadly. That's all I can say. It's not, and you may not even know, because it may look like a pill you're taking, and the street fentanyl it's laced into other medications, and that looks like an aspirin. And so kids, there's been a couple of deaths of kids on that. The last item, don't want to go over any time, but the questions about our merger with Bay Clinic, and Brandee is on this call too, and she's a board member over at Bay Clinic, and we're excited to be bringing the entire island together under one organization. I think it's going to benefit the entire organization, the entire community, excuse me, be able to leverage resources and have a continuity of care throughout the island for patients. That merger's supposed to happen July 1. We've had a number of board meetings, joint board meetings between Bay Clinic and West Hawaii. And it'll be one organization comes July 1. The new organizational name is going to be Hawaii Island Community Health Center. So you'll start seeing that coming up in the next, couple of months. And but our mission and our purpose will not change. Our care and compassion for patients will not change. The name will change, but the quality and extent of services will not. and it'll just be, from my perspective, more and better, more better. And it's exciting. It's a lot of work, but it's exciting, and it's about taking care of our community, and that's what it's about. That's why the board members like Brandee and other members of our board and the Bay board said, "Hey, this is a good thing. This is a good thing to do, because it's going to be able to serve our entire community and hope to be a lot more seamless." So I'll stop there. If I know you had a couple of questions, and
yeah, thank you, Richard, Mr. Taaffe. Appreciate your time, and of course, congratulations on the upcoming merger and all the success with it. So I think I'll pass over to Patty. She has a couple of questions for you.
Hi there. Yes, I do. Thank you we're excited about your merger too. But I'm wondering if you would just tell us in a couple of sentences, what's a community health center? Why is that so important for the island to have this leveraged resources and continuity of care? Could you just talk about that for a minute, Richard?
Sure, thank you. And James, it's always Richard. Mr. Taaffe was my father. He's passed away, but he was Mr. Taaffe. I'm Richard. But I appreciate the respect. So, yeah, Patty, community health centers, they have a long history. Community health centers have been around since 1965 and across the country. And it really, what we do is we serve everybody, regardless of their ability to pay, regardless of distance. So our goal is to increase access. We talk about 100% access and 0% disparity. So we take everybody. We work with everybody, we have a broad array of services. We have medical, dental, behavioral health. We have outreach. We have substance abuse and addiction medicine. We have pain management. And by coming together, we can leverage the resources that we have to do even more. We're looking at expanding pharmacy benefits and pharmacy services. We've had some conversations with the health plans around specialty care and trying to bring some specialty care in. I have a meeting tomorrow with, some of you may know that the Medics program, which is a PA training program in South Kona in Kealakekua and Captain Cook, through the University of Washington. Those folks are going to be here tomorrow, and they're having an open house on Saturday. But we can talk to them, say, hey, and they've said, with the Medics program here now, if you need specialty care, we can try to make some of our services available. Health plans are reaching out to us and saying, hey, you're the primary care provider here in the community, and what can we do to help you? How can we? And so it gives us if you will, a better bargaining position, if you will. But it's all in service to the community and to patients and making a difference. I don't know if that answered your question. I try to give you a little history.
That really does. At one point, I thought that there were 5 clinics, and now you might have more.
Yeah. So West Hawaii has 5 clinics right now, and Bay Clinic. And Brandee, correct me if I'm wrong. I think there's 10 or 12 or 14. So we're going to be covering the entire southern part of the island. So we'll be obviously there's Hamakua Health Center, which is in Hamakua and North Kohala. The rest of the state we're serving, and we'll be looking to expand down in to Ocean View and to that area more. There's a tremendous need. I know the mayor had a meeting there about a month ago, and one of the things he heard down there, and Heather, you may have heard this from him, but he said that one thing he heard is that the primary need down in Ocean View from that community was healthcare. So we'll be able to do more down there than we currently have been.
Does this make you better prepared to recruit doctors? Yes,
I think it does. I really do think it does. We have, I'll just say yes.
Good answer. Thank you. I'm good. Thank you.
Thanks, Patty. Thanks, Richard. Really appreciate being on the call with us and wish you all the best with the merger. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, my pleasure. And thank you for all that you do. This is how you bring a community together, and having these types of meetings and reaching out to your community through these sessions. So thank you for what you do.
Oh, very much appreciated. Thank you. And all right, next up, we're going to welcome in our council member, Heather Kimball, to share with us a few updates from the County Council. Welcome, Councilor. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, good evening. Thank you, James. And as always, thank you to your board for the invitation to come to speak at everybody. And thank you to the officers for being on tonight. And Richard, thanks for that great update on the health centers. Just a follow up on that for Hamakua Health Center in my district. We are in conversations with them to help them expand their facility. They have a property where they hope to build additional rooms and whatnot. And one of the issues is parking. So we're hoping to provide them a little bit of county land to address the parking issue so that they can use more of their property to actually develop facilities. We are very busy these days. If you see me yawning here, it's because I've been up since 6 a.m. working on budget stuff. We are in the middle of the budget cycle. And I'm sure you've heard some of this stuff seen some of the information about it in the newspapers and whatnot. We do have a 13% increase in budget, and we just received, it's hot off the presses, the mayor's second version of his budget. There have been a couple of things that we've talked about at council with respect to the budget. And one of them was introduced by Council Member Leloy, which would provide a $250 rebate to homeowners on their property taxes. Just a couple of notes on that. We were informed by our corporation counsel that the mechanism which was proposed, which was resolution, was not actually the viable mechanism to do that. So that's the resolution was ultimately withdrawn. The other issue with that, and that's going to be pertinent to my next item, is that we have borrowed several millions of dollars from the federal government in the form of the CARES Act and the ARPA funds. And when I say borrowed, these were nominally loans, and the federal government promises to forgive us those loans as long as we obey certain rules. And one of those rules is we cannot use those funds to lower taxes. And so we have to be very careful about the mechanisms which we use to lower taxes. And that leads me to the next item, which was the fuel tax. We had another conversation around reducing the fuel tax by 10 cents. And there were a number of issues with that. One of them was the concern that this would actually put us at risk of being in violation of the conditions of those loans from CARES Act and ARPA. The other concern was that the county does have a quote unquote surplus with respect to the fuel tax. However, it is not a fuel tax that is, or is not a surplus that is there because the county just can't do that. There were particular circumstances in the last year that meant they couldn't do as much roadway work as they would have liked to, which basically was lack of staffing due to COVID. And so, looking at our districts, District 9 and District 1, both Councilmember Richards and I were really concerned about how many roads we have in poor condition and taking away these really important funds, which we were assured that the Department of Public Works could put to good use to pave those roads. In Hamakua District, we have over 70 miles of road that is identified in poor condition. And so when you look at costs to people in their pocketbook, replacing tires and shocks and all of that costs a whole lot more than saving about $2 on a gallon or a full fill up of their car. The other thing that Councilmember Richards and I were concerned about with this is that there is so much money in the Federal Infrastructure and Jobs Act for infrastructure doing with roads and highways and bridges. And much of those funds require a match on the county. So if we were not able to go after some of those federal funds because we did not have the match funding available from the county, that's a loss. These federal funds are once in a lifetime funds. That's a loss we couldn't recoup from. So that was both for Councilmember Richards and I, that was the reason, those were the reasons that we couldn't actually support that. However, hot off the presses, like I said, the mayor's latest budget has come out, and he is proposing a reduction in the property tax rates across most property classes. That will be probably out in the paper tomorrow. The press release came out just about 2 hours ago. The council has been talking about in these other conversations about taxes. We have seen market values go up pretty significantly across the county. We have been discussing that adjusting the property tax rates is probably the most fair and most reasonable way to give some relief to our residents in the county, but also keep us in compliance with the guidelines provided with respect to the CARES and the ARPA funding. So that's kind of where we are. We'll have a discussion as the group shortly on those rates proposed by the mayor and other budget items. Your opportunity to testify on the budget is May 17th at 5:00 p.m. We have our special public hearing, so please participate in that if you're interested. I'm sure James can throw up the link to sign up to testify. I also wanted to mention that Waipio Valley, we have been working on a long-term strategic plan for that. This is something that has been facilitated through funding from HTA. They will be releasing a press release shortly with full details about that program. But the important thing for me to share tonight is that in June, we will have 2 community information exchange meetings. This will be January 10th from 2 to 6 and January 11th, which is a Saturday, from 10 a.m. to 2. And these are not presentation type events. You can wander in and wander out at your leisure, and you can participate in either one. These will be held at the Jack Wayne Hall building in Honoka'a Town. And what these are, we've had a steering committee with respect to YPO, and this happened before the closure by emergency order, to do a long-term access management plan. Did I say, Nancy, it is June? Sorry if I misspoke. We've had the steering committee, so they've kind of brainstormed some ideas, and those are going to be up on boards and posters around the hall. And what we're asking people to do is come through and add post-it notes and say, oh, we think that's a good idea. No, that's terrible. Don't do that. Oh, no, have you thought of this? It's a real opportunity to contribute in a really collaborative way to this management process for access to the Valley. Additionally, just so everyone's aware, next week, the Valley will be closed 9 a.m. to noon and then 1 to 4 because we have an engineering company coming in and doing additional analysis of the slope above and below the road. So there'll be workers rappelling all over the place. So please don't try to drive down. We want to make sure that they're safe too. Hopefully that study will provide some additional information about what we need to do to shore up the road. I'll just end tonight. I know we have Kawaihae and their 50-year anniversary coming up later in the program. I just wanted to tell a quick paddling story about how I accidentally started the Liliuokalani race a few years back. I used to be a fairly active paddler, and we were lined up at the starting line of the Liliuokalani long distance race, and it's a crazy circus. There's hundreds of canoes, you got jet skis going back, and we just happened to line up next to the Kawaihae women who were particularly competitive that year. They were, definitely in the running to win it. They were just ready, gearing to go, and I was stroking my cruise boat, and I thought I heard go, and so I told my crew go. And the Kawaihae ladies, they heard me say go, and so they went because, they wanted to win this thing. And, a few seconds after the horn actually went off. So by accident, I started at that was the last time I saw the women from the Kawaihae Club. We were way out of their league. Definitely always look to you guys for fantastic paddlers and just a wonderful spirit of ohana. So thank you, James, for letting me share that. Thank you, everyone, for the invitation again, and have a good evening. Stay safe.
Thank you, Councilor. I appreciate you there. Appreciate the story as well. Thanks for joining us here. We're going to move on to a little update here, and I know it's kind of cutting on our time here a little bit for building digital equity, but it's really our first community announcement for tonight, and we're joined by Liza, Ryan, Gill with Solutions Pacific. And Liza is a consultant working with our Hawaii State Public Library system to grow digital equity in our communities and really close that digital gap in our workforce. Welcome, Liza. Thanks for joining us.
Aloha kako, Liza Ryan Gill with Solutions Pacific, and thanks so much. And I apologize, my 1-year-old is in the car with me, so if you hear her talking in the background, she's got a lot to say about digital equity. So we are, so I'm working with the Hawaii Library System, the Governor's Office, Hawaii Literacy, the Workforce Development Council, and the Broadband Hui, and we are a part of Hawaii received one of about 10 states in the country that received a grant from the National Governors Association to create a plan to fully skill or think about how we can skill up our workforce for a more increasingly digital world. So that was very poorly said, but so we have been going around the state to Maui. I was over actually on Hawaii Island last week on Kona side, and then Hilo in the afternoon. And we've been talking to folks that are involved in digital resource and training, everything from keiki to kapuna. And the idea being that we are collecting this input to send to the governor's office and likely, to transition to the next governor, and on how we would be able to address these skills gap. So I know that for a lot of you folks, you're probably thinking about an infrastructure issue, whether that is about middle mile or last mile and broadband and making sure that everyone has access. And that is definitely a part, especially on the broadband Hui on DBED side of issues that they are trying to address. And then the question is, should we be able to get that infrastructure addressed, then what? How are we going to help people to be able to have access to that, to know not just at the basic level digital literacy, but where are they going to go to also then skill up for jobs that are that maybe are higher level as well. So it's been a really interesting project. I think I believe that the counselor was also talking about these unprecedented times of federal drawdown. This is also a really important process that will go into Hawaii's application to the NTIA, and as they are thinking about where they're going to put money, there is an emphasis at the federal level that due diligence has been done as far as consulting communities. And so this is not the first step, but a step towards our preparedness for when essentially those funding opportunities are open, that we're ready to grab them. So that's I'm trying to be concise here. We do have a website. It's called digitalworkforcehui.com, and on that are a number of surveys. Now, one of them is for organizations, and for any organization that is working in digital literacy or doing any type of training. We're not just trying to have a sample. We want to have a physical kind of map that shows everywhere that is doing any type of this training, and also best practices, so that as we are making recommendations to the governor's office, that we are highlighting the work that is already being done so that we're not recreating something. So I will put that in the chat as soon as by the end of the meeting here. I'm driving up the hill to our house on west side of Oahu. And then there's also for employers. We also want to be cognizant of the fact that many employers are finding it difficult to hire right now, and that there may be a gap between the way that our workforce has been trained and what employers need. And we don't want those jobs to be leaving. Hawaii. We want them to be filled by people here. And so, sorry, it's been a long day. And so those are some of the issues. There's also one for individuals, and we want to hear exactly what might be barriers or obstacles to people doing that training themselves or having access to that. So that's kind of the short of the long. I apologize. Daycare pickup is at 6 p.m. sharp.
Yeah, sorry about that, Liza, but we do appreciate you being on here. I think we had Nancy, did you have a question for Liza? And then we can let Liza go.
Yeah, I just put it in the chat, Liza, but I was just wondering, why is the Hawaii State Public Library System taking the lead on this initiative?
Yeah, good question. So libraries, and we've been really lucky to actually go into a bunch of libraries across the state recently and use a program called North Star that looks at digital literacy, and you can actually test yourself. I did mine. I felt really good. I just flew through the first introductory phase. But then I started to slow down once we hit intermediate, and I was like, wow, okay, I have some work to do. So thinking about, this is really about continuing education, right? So for folks who may have, are not digital natives, I would consider myself not necessarily a native, but maybe bicultural. I was in high school and using the internet, but barely when I graduated. And so for folks that are already outside of that space and maybe not, in a community college or in university, libraries are the space where they may have an entree into learning that digital literacy, or that they feel comfortable. So the libraries have been an active partner in how do we really reach the community in this continuing education.
Perfect. Thank you, Liza.
And we love librarians.
Absolutely. Thank you, Liza. We appreciate you joining us.
I'll put it in the chat as I park here.
Thank you. Yes, please do that, and we'll share it out. And of course, we love having you on here, and appreciate your input and really supporting our public library system. So thank you for your leadership and working with them.
Awesome.
Have a nice evening. Mahalo. Okay, next up, we're going to be hearing from the Chief Executive Officer of Hope Services Hawaii, Brandee Menino, and Brandee's going to be sharing out with us really a snapshot of homelessness from the point in time count, and really the work that we can do as a community to support one another. So I want to welcome Brandee, and it's great to see you again. Brandee, thank you so much for joining us.
Aloha, and thank you, James. Thanks again for having me. Appreciate the time. I'm going to pull up, I put together a few quick slides. So I'm going to kind of present that today. So as you mentioned, I'm the Chief Executive Officer, but I also wanted to co-present as the co-chair for Community Alliance Partners. It's a coalition of stakeholders that are doing this work together in our Hawaii Island community. The homeless point in time count, like you mentioned, is one snapshot of data that is required by the Federal Housing Organization, HUD, in order for us to apply for federal funds for homeless services. So we do that as the community, and we're one organization that leads the effort, but it's been done because of many hands and efforts from multiple volunteers and nonprofit organizations and from churches. So we did see a slight increase from 2018 to 2022. In 2021 was the only year that we did not do a homeless point in time count. So I am showing it. Usually I show a year-to-year comparison, but because of 2021 being absent, I'm kind of showing a two-year comparison, and then across these three years. But you've seen in 2018, there were a total of 869 homeless individuals. And this year, with all the volunteer efforts, we were able to identify a total of 837 individuals experiencing homelessness. So what we mean by that is folks who are living in their car, on the streets, and at the beaches, in front of doorways, in downtown Hilo, Kona, and for Waimea specifically, with places like Church Road, the Nature Park, Shopping Center, Parker Ranch, and Spencer Beach. And I'll share the regional data in a couple more slides. When we look at the total of individuals experiencing homelessness, we also want to focus on who are we talking about. And for the last few years, we've been focusing on family homelessness. When you think of homelessness, it's so overwhelming. So we try to kind of categorize it and chunk it in subpopulations and subgroups. So with family individuals, we were able to really see a 24% reduction in family homelessness, whether they're in unsheltered situations or in sheltered situations. Shelters is meaning they're staying in a temporary shelter that is operated by a nonprofit organization, like Uluvini in Kailua Kona, and the family shelters that Hope Services manages in Hilo, and the domestic violence shelters as well. So when we talk about the individuals in 2018, we're really talking about 54 families. And because we've seen a significant reduction, especially in unsheltered family homelessness, and these 58 individuals is 18 families. When we look at the children experiencing homelessness during the homeless point in time count, this is what we're seeing throughout our Hawaii Island community. And what that's telling us is that family members accounted 30% of our individuals experiencing homelessness in our community. And of that, nearly 18% were children under the age of 18. So while we still see a reduction, 30%, any one family, right, is not acceptable in our community. So we still have work to do. When we look at the regional data of unsheltered homeless individuals, I highlighted kind of the areas that's surrounding Waimea and kind of looked at North Hawaii. As you can see, this one actually household is a family. The other numbers here, 6 in Hamakua and 13 in South Kohala, are single individuals. But the highest net change and increase was in South Hilo and in Kona. With the additional federal resources due to COVID in the last 2 years, we did open up and expand services, and this included expanding homeless outreach. Like Richard mentions, the West Hawaii Community Health Center is an outreach provider with street medicine. Bay Clinic is a new street medicine provider and works alongside Hope Services. And then the other organization is Care Hawaii. So with the expansion with these nonprofits in the area of Waimea and North Hawaii, we're able to provide outreach services at least once a week as a network of organizations. Other things like in USDA food distribution, nearly 22 nonprofit organizations for North Hawaii specifically. This complemented the community distributions. We know that the families that we work with, transportation was an issue in trying to get to community distribution. So nonprofits and volunteer groups like Big Island Giving Tree, Our Lady of Lourdes, Annunciation Catholic Church, and Kokua Christian Ministries helped us. Hope Services was a hub while these organizations were able to pick up the produce. About 1,000, in the beginning was about 2,000 boxes, and kind of towards the end was 1,000 boxes. The ask was for a 5-week distribution that ended up being 10 months distribution of food. And these are door-to-door deliveries. And in some places we're still drive-through, but in their community as well. One of the newer services that we provided with philanthropic dollars, during COVID, there were lockdowns in our airports. And I know at a period of time, civil defense was managing the airports, and people had to identify, where they were going, right? They had to quarantine someplace. So when had all of those restrictions, people are still coming to our community and showing up at our airports without a plan. And we weren't accepting them in our shelters. So we assisted civil defense in reunifying them back to their families where they originated. So as we look for continued philanthropic dollars, we're hoping to continue to do that. But currently those fundings exhausted. Other new services we did throughout COVID was open up additional temporary shelters. The picture here is from Kalamaku at the Old Kona Airport. And the picture at the bottom right corner here is the old School of Pharmacy at the Old Hilo Hospital. We established and opened up 18 single room occupancy units for permanent housing in partnership with the County of Hawaii and Ohana Zone funding. Because of the additional federal resources, we know we couldn't do this work as an organization. And so we did this as a network, as I mentioned, with other nonprofit organizations. And through that, Hawaii Community Lending was able to help us lead 6 other nonprofit organizations distribute rent assistance. In 2020, it also included mortgage. And these are the number of households in these zip codes that were assisted with rent and mortgage assistance. And with the rent and mortgage assistance, the average household income was about $38,000, with the average grant distribution about $3,000 per family. With the emergency rent assistance program, where $15.9 million were distributed and ended last month, the average grant was about also $3,000, but these were just renters and not homeowners. So the household income average was about a little less than $24,000 is their annual household income. And these are the number of households that were approved for assistance in these zip codes. We are anticipating a round 2 distribution. Hawaii Community Lending is working with the County of Hawaii. So we're hoping to launch by the end of the month for the first an additional $5 million as the need still continues to grow in our community. Other services are available by phone, online, or in person in partnership with housing navigators and community navigators as well. And in Pahoa is our first housing development. We broke ground last year, April, and it's still moving and still going, hasn't yet quite completed this project. We're anticipating hopefully early summer, but this is our first housing build in partnership with HPM Building Supply. This is the property that we lease with the Catholic Church and actually is in escrow and closing with the Catholic Church because we are purchasing this property. These is when the same property where 20 micro shelters were erected in 2018 in response to the Kilauea eruption in 2018. Because efforts of being able to advocate online, I think one of the focuses we did in the last 2 years is really try to mobilize our community stakeholders and members and advocating for resources. And with Council Member Heather Kimball, like she introduced bills 152 and 153, and we're also helping to advocate bills 160. But we also showed up with Bill 111, which is now Ordinance 2226. But these are just some efforts at the county level or new initiatives with our county council and that we're really excited about as new funding becomes available for housing and homeless services as the need is growing and getting greater. And this is also a list as we try to keep up with what was passed in the state legislature, some of the bills that we supported as the Community Alliance partners and working towards this effort in addressing access to affordable housing, poverty, and homelessness. This is progress, but there's still much work to be done. I've read a recent report from the Budget and Policy, the Center of Budget and Policy, where 40% of our homes on Hawaii Island between 2017 and 2020 were from non-Hawaii residents. Our discrimination against voucher holders, folks, when we get additional resources like federal dollars, for vouchers like Section 8, where it subsidizes housing costs for those who are low income. Oftentimes you'd see advertisements where Section 8 is not allowed or they're not being accepted by households. So just with the tight rental market in our community, those folks with vouchers are just getting priced out and they're not finding housing and they lose their voucher. And that's what's happening now, where our community has rent assistance, has moving costs available, but the connection to affordable housing and units is just not there. You know, we have continued high cost of living. I mean, these are things I don't have to mention to you guys, but it's the capacity of our mental health and substance abuse. There's a wait list, even when someone's waiting for getting into substance abuse treatment. I think the earliest that they had mentioned to me was, 6 months that they can get into inpatient. We've been working with the Waimea community. It kind of paused during COVID, but we're starting to kind of bring back that conversations of having shelter back in, looking for space in West Hawaii. So if there's anybody on this call that have available land, a house, or a place where we could do a shelter, I'll have my contact info, or call Patty or Nancy Carr-Smith. They know where to find me. We're always working together to find space where we can provide shelter in your community in Waimea where it's accessible. Because we know that even when we built the housing in Pahoa, we tried to move this housing project elsewhere. They're like, no, we want to stay in Pahoa, in Lower Puna, even with the threat of the lava returning. Let's see. So if you have any questions or more information, you can reach me at this email or my co-chair, Paul Norman, at his email as well. Thank you.
Amazing work, Brandee. Thank you so much for really taking the lead on this and really helping those that are less fortunate and our communities across the island. Really grateful for all the work that you're doing. Thank you so much. And Patty, do you have a question or comment?
It's a comment, Brandee. We really did appreciate the regular meetings we were having, trying to figure out how do we help you help the community who are in the homeless or are really vulnerable to homelessness. We'd like to get that going again too. So we're available. Thank you.
Thank you, Patty. I think one thing that did work also during COVID that I didn't mention is we did rent out some rooms at the Kamuela Inn. Remember, to help the kupuna that was in the area when we opened up the Holiday Inn in Kailua Kona, that was CARES Act money at the time. So like those kinds of short-term low-hanging fruit we can certainly do still. But yeah, I know we were looking towards more permanent solutions as well. Thank you, Patty. We'll keep in touch.
We also really appreciated the food bundles from USDA. Those were fabulous and it was so needed. So thank you.
Thank you, Brandee. Thanks, Patty. Appreciate those comments and words of wisdom there. Great to see you on the call, Brandee. Thank you so much for all that you do. Next up, we're going to jump to a little project here in the community, in Waimea community, that is. And this is, we are grateful to be joined by a fellow community member that spent many years, many hours working alongside friends, family, and other individuals of the community here to really implement an alternative means of transit here in Waimea. So grateful to be joined by Clem to share with us a brief update on Waimea Stream Trail, also known as Keala Kahawai Waimea, and some information about an upcoming event they're planning to have and host this summer. So welcome, Clem. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, James. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay,
thank you.
great. Well, thank you very much for this opportunity. And I wanted to just give you a fast update about the Waimea Trails and Greenways. It is doing very well. It's very healthy. In fact, last month, when I was going home for lunch, I had the great pleasure of running into two of the community police officers who were patrolling the trail right around noontime. And they said they will be doing that every month. So that was very reassuring. The trail is looking really good right now. The maintenance that is being done by volunteers and by the, we just had a big boost with the ordinance removal gang that was out there for about 2 weeks or 3 weeks, preparing a swath that they were going to monitor for ordnance. We also have had the pleasure of Waimea Middle School 7th graders on a regular basis and HPA 7th graders on a regular basis. So the trail is looking great. And we have had regular volunteers who have sort of taken over sections of trail. And the mayor, a month ago, recognized these volunteers with a presentation that came out in the newspaper. You may have seen it, with a nice certificate of appreciation. And we really appreciate all the efforts that these volunteers have made, and that the mayor he's really gotten his administration behind this trail. And we're very excited about that. In fact, the mayor will be meeting with has been meeting with Parker Ranch about the next increment of trail from Kahavai Street down to the transfer station. And we're going to be laying some groundwork for a little change in that easement so that the trail can happen there. And at the western end, O'Uli Park, a lot of people have some questions about that, because they see all this planting that's going on, and now the plants, the kawaihae, the willy willy trees, all these native plants, they are starting to poke their heads up above the cane grass and the Christmas berry and the wattle, and it's really turning into an awesome sight. And unfortunately, Mike Donahoe, who has been spearheading that, was not able to join us today, but he's been doing a great job, been having work days down there, and they're just doing it's really an amazing spot. And when we actually connect O'Uli Park to the rest of the trail that's up in town, we're going to have one heck of a trail in Waimea. Now, what I'm here about today, though, is on June 4th is National Trails Day. And if you haven't been out to the trail yet, I would like to invite you to come to, let's say, the nature park, because that's a great place to park your car and to get on the trail. The trail goes right through the nature park, and we will be having some activities. This is June 4th in the morning from about 8:30 to noon. We will be selling trail t-shirts, and you can see them behind me. We'll have two different types. This is the image that's on the trail. I mean, it's an image on the trail of a watercolor, and the front of the T-shirt is going to be this. We're going to have two different colors, and your purchase of a T-shirt will help our trail committee defer expenses, which we have very little of, but it's more of to get the name of the trail out, get people to use it. There's quite a few people who do use the trail right now. We will also have plein air painters on the trail that day, and we will have a little art exhibit at the end of the 2 or 3 hour time period where they will be producing their art. And we will meet at the nature park at around 11:30, and we'll show the paintings that come out from that day. And we will also have a photo, I don't want to say contest, but a photo exhibit that anyone who has one of these or a real camera can put it on Instagram, and we will accept them, and we will not judge them, but we will appreciate them and share them on our website. The Outdoor Circle will also have a mini plant sale that day. So there's going to be lots of things happening at the nature park and along the trail. We will encourage people to walk on the trail that day, experience the trail, and at this point right now, it looks so good. I mean, it's really been doing great. So I encourage all of you to come out there and join us. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you, Clem. Patty, do you have a question, or Nancy, any questions?
I was wondering who did the beautiful artwork that's on the t-shirts.
Thank you. I did.
Yay. They look beautiful. I like the color too.
Thank you.
Great
May I
job.
ask 2 questions.
Go ahead, Patty.
How long have you been doing this?
Since you were a little girl.
Oh gosh. And how does someone reach out to you and get involved?
Okay, so this thing in 1994, and if you want to get involved with us, you can come to our monthly meeting, which is the first Monday of the month at the nature park. We meet in the pavilion there at 5 o'clock. Or you can call myself, or you can call James. He's one of our stalwart committee members. And we do have a website that the county has actually made for us. So there's various ways of contacting us.
Thank you.
Thanks, Patty. Thanks so much, Clem. I'll see you out on the trail soon.
All right. Thank you, James.
Yeah. Thank you so much for all that you do. Wonderful. I just have a couple other quick announcements here that I'm going to share before we move on to one of our big presenters for the evening. I know you're all anxiously waiting to hear. So I'm going to share my screen here on a couple of images. All right. Okay. So a couple of things happening in the community here. A few events happening back at Kahilo Theater. So we have a Prince Dance Company is putting on Wild Things. So this is a theatrical dance performance inspired by our beloved book. This is happening this Saturday and Sunday at Kahilo Theater. So if you don't have tickets, might be a good time to check this one out and enjoy. Let's see. Next up, we have, this is what Councilor Kimball talked about the temporary closure to Waipio Valley Road for this period from May 9th to the 13th. And as was mentioned, this is between 9 a.m. to noon and 1 to 4. So there's DPW, Department of Public Works, is recommending that residents and others utilize the other times that they're not working. That, as was mentioned, they're going to be rappelling down the side and really working and conducting field activities on and around that access road there. So just to be aware of that. Let's see. And as we mentioned on our last meeting, and we were joined by Lauren Zulik. He leads this and he assists with this advisory board, which is the Waikoloa Maneuver area, in understanding and remediating a lot of the UXO, the unexploded ordinances across the Waikoloa Maneuver area. And if you're interested in attending these meetings, learn about the process, the next meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, May 18th. And you can go to the website there, www.wmarab.com, to get access to that meeting there. And it's being held virtually. And you can send any other questions or RSVP to the email there on your screen there. So some information about that. Annunciation Food Pantry is also doing distributions upcoming. Next one is next week, May 10th. This is a drive-through event, and really appreciate all that they do for the community. And they also are looking for gifts and in-kind donations are always welcome. Information there to call and email if you'd like to support their effort. And then also next week, Friday, once again, is the Waimea Family Food Truck Friday at Bukalani Stables. And looks like they're having live entertainment this time around. So something to enjoy with the family if we can get through the wet weather we've been having here. And then lastly here is the Puakolo training area, EIS. This is the environmental impact statement. This is an ongoing process right now. This is the draft form of the environmental impact statement. And right in the middle of the comment period here. So I encourage anyone to submit comments. There were a couple of public meetings in person. I think the first was at Imiloa, and the second one was shortly after that, actually here at Waimea District Park. And those recordings are also up on this EIS website if you want to go back and rewatch those recordings. But you're welcome to submit comments and read the documents and really delve into it a little bit further there. And then I think also affiliated with PTA, they next week, they are having Experience PTA Day, Colloquial Training Day. So there's displays, demonstrations, booths, equipment to look at, and you can interact with the PTA staff there as well. It's open to the public, groups, classes, children. So you want to reach out to their events officer there and to really learn about that event. That's from May 12th, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. All right. I think that does it for my community announcements here. So thank you for entertaining those. Okay, let me just make sure we're on track here. Doing great. We also, through Waimea Community Association, for the month of June, we are getting into election season again. So we're looking at June 9th and June 16th to hold a virtual candidate forum. We're planning to do this with the gubernatorial candidates as well as the LG lieutenant governor candidates. So between the 9th and the 16th there. And we invite you to join us those evenings. I'll be doing the same format. And we'll be trying to visit with as many of those candidates as possible on those 2 evenings. Once again, that's June 9th and June 16th. So mark in your calendar. And as always, if there are other events or happenings, we try to do our best to post them up on our Facebook page, but wanted to point a couple of these out that are really around the corner here. And as always, if you or your organization are, if you're affiliated with, you need help in spreading the word about some community activity you're doing, we're happy to help you and assist you. Please don't hesitate to reach out to us. All right. Thank you very much. And all right, so really for the last portion of our meeting tonight, we want to spend the rest of the time with them here. For the month of May, the Waimea Community Association will be spotlighting Kawaihae Canoe Club as our nonprofit of the month. And tonight, we're grateful to be joined by Auntie Kala Akima Akau and Uncle Pete Hendricks to share some tremendous news. Kawaihae Canoe Club is celebrating a 50-year legacy and a journey of perpetuating the paddling traditions of Hawaii, while nurturing, mentoring, celebrating, and cherishing thousands of families, friends, and all of our keiki. So I want to welcome in wholeheartedly Auntie Kala and Uncle Pete, and congratulations to you and the club. Thank you so much for being here with us this evening. And we want to pass it over to Auntie Kala first, if that's okay.
Aloha pumehana kako, aloha. Pete is going to go first, so if we can ho'olele our slide.
Aloha, everyone. I had the good fortune of starting with the Kawaihae Canoe Club in fall of 1972. And the first meeting was at the courthouse in Waimea. There was a courthouse presided over by Judge Olds. And at the very beginning and still to today, Kawaihae Canoe Club is an ohana. And all the way from 8-year-olds all the way up to kapuna. And we had our first regatta with just 3 clubs in 1973. Prince David Kawananakoa at Hilo, Kaiopu and Kona, and Kawaihae Canoe Club in Kawaihae. And if we could see the image of the old map, as you know, before Westerners arrived, the Polynesians were here for a long, long time, and their mode of transportation before Hawaiian Airlines and Young Brothers and Matson was primarily by canoe. That was the easiest way to transport goods and services and to meet people and to have wars. And this is the earliest Western map of the Kawaihae Bay area from 1819, just after the death of Kamehameha, who had by then united all the islands. Next image. And by 1913, the little wharf at Kawaihae was a very busy place. And this image is where the canoe club is now and the existing wharf. If you look through the lower part under the roof, there's a steamer in the background. And the use of canoes had kind of gone out of use with modern steamships and or relatively modern, and canoes only came back a little bit later. Next image. A shot by RM Toll Company of Kawaihae as it was before the reef was dredged out, and then the harbor as it more or less stands today. And the canoe club would be on the upper left, where you see the little square. Kawaihae Canoe Club trained kids, as I said, from 6 years old all the way up, and eventually they went on to paddle inter-island and around the Pacific, Tahiti Nui, and Hamilton Island in Australia, and even in Europe. One of my kids paddled a race from Trieste to Venice. Next slide. A shot with the cattle walls, where cattle were held after having been run down from Waimea to go off in the steamer. And those are two sampans owned by the La'au family. Eddie La'au Sr. is there. And Kawaihae always was a very important fishing place. And that was still going on pretty successfully when the canoe club started. Next slide. We've been through some really interesting time. This was after the canoe club started in 1972. We started out with about 2 acres of land leased from the state, and now we have 4. This is actually 3 shots that I took after the 100-year storm of 1980. And if you've been down there anytime, you'll know that the beach on the right, we call it the back beach, is very much reduced. The bottom photo shows Soupy Campbell's Banana Patch sampan, the only boat that rode out the storm in 1980. Next slide. This was a picture just taken a couple of days ago. We were very fortunate, thanks to some benefactors, to have Brother Kaleholani and his crew restore the walls that were used to retain cattle, and before they were shipped out. It's almost the same shot looking out for the old steamers. The club today is a wonderful asset for the community. It's open to anybody. It's about 4 acres of land that's leased from the county, all volunteer maintained. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kaleo to take a look at the people and the culture and the other aspects of the club.
Aloha pumehana kako, o wau o Willet, Kalau kahaku, Akima Akau, o wau ke kaikamahine o Lorna, Lawa o Willie Akima, o wau ka mo'opuna o Elaine, Lawa o Alika Flores, o wau ke kaikuahine o Willie, Lawa o Chalmers. Aloha pumehana kako. If we can go to the next slide, please. And before I start, in honoring the next 3 pictures that we show, I would like to play this song. I am the granddaughter. I am Willette Kalaukahaku Akima Akau, the granddaughter of Elaine Flores. The Kawaihae Canoe Club was a brainchild of my tutu, then the president of the Waimea Hawaiian Civic Club, who in 1972 founded the Kawaihae Canoe Club with other community members. Over the last 50 years, Waimea Hawaiian Civic Club continues to support Kawaihae Canoe Club. Kawaihae Canoe Club was built by a community led by very strong and determined people like my grandmother. I was reminded last night after word got out that I would be presenting tonight that she was the glue, she was known as the glue that kept the culture of this community well and alive. And that is why founding of the Kawaihae Canoe Club was very important to her. The Waimea Hawaiian Civic Club was a very big part of the Kawaihae Canoe Club. My grandmother, being the cook, took care of all the food concessions and refreshments for paddlers during the Kawaihae Canoe Club regattas. My two brothers and I paddled in 1973. And after graduating, my brothers left, went into the military. And every day, there was no excuse. We had to get on the highway and go to paddling. And when I finally turned 18, and my mom was like, you need to go find a job now. And I was like, I'm confused because all of my childhood, you tell me I got to go paddling, and now I want to go paddling, and you're telling me I need to go find a job at 18 years old. But my last race, both my brothers and I paddled in 1973. We had no choice, right? My grandmother was a president. My grandmother was a founder, one of the founders of Kawaihae Canoe Club. Her mo'opuna, we're going to go paddling. At that time, one of my father's brothers was also paddling. And in 1986 was my last race because I found out that I was having my first child. And just recently, I've gone back to paddling maybe the last 5 or 6 years. I was always a paddler. I really never did. I played basketball, but that wasn't my thing. Baseball, I was afraid of the ball hitting me in the mouth. And so paddling was my thing. And going back after 30 somewhat years, it was like riding a bicycle all over again. The next slide, please. The first president of Kawaihae Canoe Club was Charles Kaleloke Rose. He was the Waimea police captain at that time. He made sure to tell his police officers that during paddling season, that they were to come down the Kawaihae Hill, and if they saw any keiki on the road hitchhiking or see them with a paddle waiting for a ride to Kawaihae, to pick them up and take them down to the harbor. And when paddling hours were done for the keiki, to go back down because these children need a ride back up the hill. And if there were anyone who needed that right to come back, the police officers would bring them home. The community would bring them home. I remember that the whole Waimea community was there. So there wasn't, you couldn't miss a ride unless you didn't want to ride with somebody. And I remember as a, we used to live down in Lalamilo, and we used to have to go out on the side of the road, and we could tell Uncle Manny's, the sound of his tires. And so when we hear that coming around up by the water tank, up by the Phillips compound, we would run into the stream there and wait and listen for his truck to pass. Because if we went down early, we had lots to do. But everybody wanted to catch Uncle Manny coming back up the hill because he was the last person to leave, and that allowed everybody to be able to swim longer. Today, Kawaihae Canoe Club has a total of 3 vans donated, and we transport every day, Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, when the kids paddle, from 2 vans come from Waimea. And at this time, we're waiting for a driver, a volunteer driver, so that the Kohala children can be brought down. It was also said that Gabe Lindsay, at that time, a fireman in Kohala, he would bring the children, the keiki from Kohala to Kawaihae on the fire truck. That was their ride down to Kawaihae Canoe Club, was with Uncle Gabe Lindsay. The next picture, please. Manny Veincent. This is the man. This is the living legend. He knows paddling inside and out. He's a carver. He builds canoes. And nobody knows paddling like this man. Manny Veincent, a member of the fire department's search and rescue in Hilo, had transferred to the new Waimea fire station, which is now the Firehouse Gallery, a few years before the club was founded. He was tasked to acquire canoes, paddles, and equipment for the club. With his experience in canoe paddling and coaching, that wasn't a hard task for him to do. That was my words. Kawaihae Canoe Club was made up. Kawaihae Canoe Club was made up of cowboys, plantation workers, farmers, construction workers, and some hotel workers. At that time, it was just Mauna Kea Beach Hotel. Kawaihae Canoe Club's success is because of the community support that they had. At that time, families came, grandparents, parents, and their children. Today, we have 3rd and 4th generation paddlers from those early years. My brother's grandchildren paddle. So if we go, my grandmother, the founder, to my dad's, one of my dad's younger brothers, to myself and my 2 brothers, and now to my brother's grandchildren. It's a kuleana to us. It's something that my grandmother started that we have to carry on and encourage others to come and paddle. Manny is very thankful to the members of the Waimea community who gave unselfishly to the club back in the day. He will always call out the names of Frank Topley, Harry Ferguson, Sonny Martinson, Bill Akau, who is a kahu of the club, Akeni Akau, Solomon Akau, George Pahio, who is George Liana or Kioki Liana, Frank Puhi, Lala La'au, and the Pu'ukohola Park Rangers. Can we go to the next, please? Mahalo to Bill Akau, and Bill Akau is the brother to my father-in-law. At this time, he was the harbor master, and he was a kahu of he was the harbor master to Kawaihae Harbor, and he was also the kahu. Because of him, we were able to use the old Young Brothers warehouse to hold the concession stand. In those early years, this is in the 70s, this is Kawaihae Harbor. This is when we held regattas. The County of Hawaii supported us too. They brought bleachers for the spectators to sit on while watching the races. The county band would come and entertain throughout the day. We're also told that one time the sugar boat was scheduled to come in and load sugar at Kawaihae Harbor. And with all the powerful people of Waimea involved with Kawaihae Canoe Club, after phone calls, the barge anchored off at Mahukona until the races were done. Kawaihae, next please. Kawaihae was unbeatable for 4 to 5 straight years. The question after a while was, who's to stop Kawaihae? Next. Kawaihae Harbor here. This is a regatta day. The next, please. And this is us jumping off into the harbor from right there at the old in front of the old Kawaihae, in front of the old Young Brothers warehouse, which I think it's the robotic warehouse. Next, please. Next. Again, a canoe race here down at the Kawaihae Harbor. We can go for a little while, Jim. Here we go. Here, do you see right here? Here's the cattle chute. The barges pull up, and that's where the cattle goes out. Back in the day on the right out here on the harbor. Today, now they're all in trailer containers, and that's what goes onto the barge. Okay, next, please. Kawaihae takes 9th straight regatta. Next, please. Kawaihae sweeps 10 races, 7th straight win. Here's both my parents' membership cards, and I believe that's from 1975. Okay, next. And here we go. Who's to stop Kawaihae? Who's to stop Kawaihae was the answer. Was the question, I'm sorry. As time passed on, so did the older people start to pass on. The club had matured. The gavel of the board was passed on now, and 40 years later, Manny is still the president of Kawaihae Canoe Club. We can go to the next, please. Kawaihae has 3 programs. One is the kids program that is Manny's passion. Once asked by a donor just a few months ago, would you say that hundreds, 500 or 600 children have come through the club? Manny's reply was, thousands have come through. Next, please. He was a stable person in many of the kids and adults that have come through the club. He was a father to some that didn't have a father. He was a disciplinarian to many. He liked those real hard-headed kids. Today, he mentions how he has received calls from some of those hard-headed ones, and they thank him for who they have become today. Out of the many stories that he shared, 2 that sticks to my head is a Navy SEALs, a youngster who is now a Navy SEALs captain, and another is a neurosurgeon. Back in their early years, Manny coached basketball, paddling, and football. So many of these boys moved with him through these different sports. Soccer and flag football was not happening back then like it is today. So that has definitely cut down on the number of paddlers that we have today. Discipline, 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 and dedication are 2 words that ring in my ears. From when I was 13 years old till I am now 60 years old. We are always compared to them, the children. Why can't you adults get it? He shows the kids once, he tells us they get it. We adults, he tells us, still looks terrible. If you know Manny, he is the kindest hearted person. All he is doing is pushing us to be our best because he knows we are and can be the best. The next picture, please. He has taken many adults, but many, many of his keiki in the keiki program to the state races. And the state races, we have won different titles because of these keiki, because of our children. Next, please. And here's majority of, so this is our school, Alokeha Oka'aina Mauna, our Hawaiian language school in Waimea. And I can say that in this picture, at least 6 of them are paddlers. And that's why we were asked if they could perform at one of the annual luau's. And so here's some of our children. The next one, please. We also have an adult program. We practice Monday, Tuesday, Thursdays, and Saturdays. Our first race is next Saturday, the 14th It's our Kawaihae long distance. We no longer have the regatta, and you know why. We can't get onto the harbor. So we have a Kawaihae long distance. It starts at the small boat harbor, goes down to Red Hill, which is past Waiakailio, and return, and it's about a 9-mile race. The following week, regatta season starts, and we will be racing every weekend until the end of July. Next, please. Oh, I think we can go through these pictures up until 28, Jim. Slide 28. This is our adult program. Okay, right here. And we also have our kupuna program. They are our recreational paddlers. They don't want competition. And they are the club's greatest supporters. We are very thankful for all of them. They paddle out on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday mornings. They also have ongoing fundraisers for our keiki program or for the club. Currently, they have a paddle out, and the paddle out is seeing the Kawaihae area from the ocean, on the canoe from the ocean. They also have an apparel line and other items online at the Zazzle store. And if you visit our website, Kawaihae Canoe Club, you will find their Zazzle store, and you will find out more about our different programs. Next, please. Every year, annually, the Saturday before Thanksgiving, we have an annual luau. And that's when our fathers come together to help kalua the pig. Our paddlers come together. And we're very fortunate because when we go out and ask for donations from our paddlers and our members, they're very willing to give. Next, please. This is our Kaiha Vana Vana. And our club number is number 51. This is our koa canoe. When we first started paddling in 73, practice and then racing in 73, we were using fiberglass. And I forget what year it was that we needed to start racing in koa canoes. And Uncle Manny, with all the knowledge that he has of carving and building koa canoes, we were very fortunate to get koa wood from up on Mauna Kea, Waipunale, and in those areas. Our last canoe, Waiho, comes from Mauka of Pu'u'anahulu. And I also want to mention that we were very fortunate because we also we're also gifted 2 fiberglass canoes from our kupuna program. So very thankful for that. Next, please. So being that this is our 50th year, we are trying to put different events on. And on April 9th, we just had a reunion, just come together. Paddlers in the last 50 years come together, and the stories was the same. The stories was definitely the same amongst all of us old-time paddlers. For myself, and it could be because Uncle is older now. Uncle will be 90 years old in October. He still has that spunk, but I believe that he's a little more malie or more calm with these kids. I can tell you that today we have wheels. The wheels push the canoe around, not around, from where it sits down the ramp into the ocean. We used to carry those canoes back in the day. And if we dropped that canoe while we're in the water and he heard it go put on the top of the ocean, he would make us lift that canoe up, and we would walk to a Doi store over here in the corner, go up the driveway, come around, go back down, and go back and put the canoe back in the water. We did that, I would say, a couple times. He was very strict with us too. We used to have to run. We had to run. When this harbor was open, we had to run this whole thing. You go in this first gate over here, you come out that other gate. We had to run. And he knew if we weren't running. And if he found out we weren't running, guess what? He was behind us on his truck, and we had to run around this place 4 times. But our Kamali'i, our keiki now, they have a different Uncle Manny than what we had, but he's still, discipline is his number one thing. Discipline is his number one thing. The next slide, please. Next month, we invite you to join us at the Waimea Arts, I called it the Waimea Firehouse Gallery. The Waimea Arts Council celebrates the 50th anniversary of the Kawaihae Canoe Club from June 1st to the 26th, Friday through Sunday, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m., or whenever the flags are flying, we're open. Special talk story reception Sunday afternoons on June 5th and 26th, culture, history, and art. Next, please. In closing, our keiki program is the club's treasure. In order to nurture each treasure, our keiki, we need the equipment of paddles and canoes to nourish them. We also need to maintain the aina, the 4.6 acres that we have, so that we have a foundation to build our treasures on. We thank our Waimea community, as well as Hamakua, Kohala, and Kohala community, and Waikoloa communities, for supporting Kawaihae Canoe Club these 50 years, and look forward to the club's next 50 years. There is much, much more about Kawaihae Canoe Club, but I invite you to come down, paddle, hear more stories, and be a part of making future stories for yourself and the club. In behalf of Kawaihae Canoe Club, we thank the Waimea Association for highlighting Kawaihae Canoe Club that was established in 1972. And I would like to honor Pete Hendricks, because he's still here to tell us the story. And he himself was also one of the Kawaihae Canoe Club presidents over the years. Mahalo nui loa, ya kako apau.
Mahalo nui, Auntie Kala.
Mahalo.
That was very beautiful and amazing history there. Many recognizable faces and the great photos you had there too in your collection. So thank you for sharing that with us. And Nancy, Patty, did you want to share any words of wisdom or have any words to say?
It's hard to have the ability to speak and choke up. Thank you, Kala. Very precious moments. Thank you.
Mahalo nui, Patty. I would just like to invite all of you. We do have a, like I said, we have a Kawaihae Canoe Club website, and on there we do have our commemorative shirts we're taking orders for. We also have regatta shirts, and yes, browse, check it out. If you have any questions, call me. Like I said, I'm Willette. I'm also Kala Okahaku or Kala. Give me a call, check me out, and I'd be more than happy to help you. Mahalo nui.
Mahalo, Auntie. And thank you, Uncle Pete. Appreciate you being on here as well, and your knowledge and really supporting the club through the years and sharing that all that history with us here. I did go ahead and share the link to the Kawaihae Canoe Club website over on the stream for our viewers, so they're able to capture that and head over there. And as Auntie Kala said, please do visit their website and support and continue supporting their work, all the amazing programs that they've put on for the community, their luau's, just all that they've done for our keiki and to our kapuna and all the programs they've done, and really brought the community together in many different ways. So thank you so much for being here with us this evening.
Mahalo. Mahalo nui.
Wow. Amazing. Quite amazing. Well, before we close tonight's meeting, just gonna say a last couple of words here. Mahalo nui to all of our presenters for joining us this evening, for really taking the time to update and connect with our viewers and connect with the community and really helping to lead in our communities here. Thank you to all of our viewers for joining us on the live stream. You're welcome to revisit, rewatch this recording. And we look forward to seeing you again soon. And on behalf of the Waimea Community Association Board, I wish you good health, be well, aloha. Thank you so much.
Aloha, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Have a nice evening.